What's happening, YouTube? It's Simon466 Cards here, and today we are going to talk about bottoms. Not those type of bottoms, and I cannot lie. If you're new to the channel, I do a weekly video talking about analytics or data or the economics or the business side of the sports card hobby. With that being said, let's jump right into it. And so this started, I'm going to say a couple weeks ago, when Jeff Wilson from Sports Card Investor posted a video about the bottom is almost here and why we should be bouncing back sometime in the near future. And this is not a video ripping Jeff. There's plenty of those on the internet. This is not what it is. When I first watched his video, it made a lot of sense to me. And it mirrored a lot of thoughts that I had and some of the thoughts that I put in my video a couple weeks ago. But once I started thinking about it a little bit more, I realized that Jeff is missing one very important part of his analysis. So I'm going to play part of his video and I'm just going to talk through what my thoughts are. Here we go.
Despite the ups and downs of the last few years, demand is much higher today than it was on March 10th of 2020, and it will forever remain so.
Okay. First of all, Jeff's at 1.25 speed to speed this up. So if he sounds a little faster, that's what it is. So he's basically saying that there are more people in the hobby since the pandemic started than there were before. I think I agree with that. Let's keep going.
The Consumer Price Index, CPI, is up about 15% since March 10th of 2020. So at an absolute bare minimum, I think it's fair to say that most key cards will forever remain above their March 10th, 2020 price plus 15% or whatever CPI adjusts to in the future.
So he's basically saying here that as inflation impacts the overall economy, then the value of these assets will also rise at roughly the same rate of inflation. I won't get into the economics of this, but at a high level, that should be correct. But there's a lot of assumptions built into that. But so far, I'm agreeing with everything he's saying. First of all, demand and then now inflation sounds good.
But I think the real price floor is well above that because demand is so much higher and the market is so much larger than it was before the pandemic. I think
Notice again, he talks about demand being higher. And again, I agree with that. He mentioned that earlier, but he's basically repeating the same point. And let's just, I'll finish the video and then I'll come back to this.
Actual price floor is probably somewhere between 40% to 100% above March 10th of 2020 prices.
Okay, so that'll be the end of all I play for Jeff. So I don't know where you got the 40 to 110, 40 to 100%. I don't know where you got that from. That's fine. Both times he talks about demand has increased and as a result, prices will increase, right? Which makes sense in economics. When demand increases, prices also increase. However, economics 101, what is it the study of? It's not just the study of demand. It's the study of demand and supply. Nowhere in this video does he talk about supply. And that is the big issue with the video, is that he has completely overlooked supply and is only focused on demand. And I don't think I think he just simply overlooked it. I don't think he's intentionally misleading people or what have you, right? Because the data for supply is a lot harder to get to, right? But fortunately, I've gotten some data from GemRate, and just a quick shout out, or maybe not even a quick shout out, just a pure huge shout out to GemRate and all the data that they have in terms of that show the amount of cards being graded on a monthly, weekly basis since April or February of 2021, and the gem rates of basically every card at PSA, SJC, Beckett. Anyways, he then goes into this video where, and I'm not going to show the video, but I'm just going to show you the highlights here. The first card he talks about and analyzes is the Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer rookie card, right? Very famous card, the most famous in the hobby, one many would say. And he's saying that in a PSA 8 and a PSA 9, they're up 110%, 100%. So that's, right in the range of the 40 to 100% that he's been talking about, right? And I generally agree with him on this one because these are relatively rare cards. And so if demand has gone up, then the supply should not have changed. But the implication when you watch this video, and specifically for the Jordan, is that this will be true for all Michael Jordan Fleer rookie cards. He doesn't say that explicitly, and I don't think he's trying to mislead people, but it's implied by the way he talks about it, because obviously this is an iconic card, and whether it's the implication is that whether it's a 9 or an 8 or 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, this card is close to its bottom because of how the 9 and the 8 are performing. And this is where I say I don't believe that's correct. I've worked with Ryan from GemRate, so again, shout out to him, to get the data that shows the growth of the population counts for each of the grades for the Michael Jordan. And I am going to jump right into that. Here it is. Here's the Michael Jordan growth of the pop from February 2021 to January 2023. So basically the last 2 years. That, I don't think he's saying anything he's saying wrong. Or I don't think he's saying anything wrong about the 8s or the 9s. The pops have increased by 9 or 5%. One other thing I should say is he's talking about a relative change in growth. Sorry, Jeff is from, the beginning of the pandemic, which is March 2020. This data is as of February 2021. We all know about the shutdown and the huge amounts of cards being submitted in 2020 and 2021, right? So this change actually underestimates the growth in pop counts. So keep that in mind. I would basically rough estimate, take these numbers and double it roughly. If you look at the 8s and the 9s, going back to this, they've gone up by 5-9%. So I'm not surprised that these cards have gone up because demand has increased, and even if supply has only increased by 10-15%, sure. But you look at the pop increases from like the 1s to the 6s and maybe the 7s. 70, 60, 40, 37%, 20%. And again, that is not the full scope of the growth because this doesn't include stuff from March 2020 all the way through to February 2021. So a full year's worth of stuff basically, which is when this data begins. So I think, sure, PSA 8s, 9s, and 10s, maybe close to the bottom. I don't know that I'd be so confident saying that, but a Jordan 1, PSA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, based off of these numbers. So that's basically going to be the crux of this video. I'm going to go through each and every card that Jeff talks about, the quote unquote iconic cards from the 4 major sports, and see which ones I think the bottom is close to or near or whatever Jeff's saying in his video, because the pop counts haven't changed too much versus the ones where I'm saying, I don't know if I think that, look at how much the pop counts have changed. So that is the entire video, and I'm just gonna, now that I've given you the outline of what we're doing here, let's go back to this video. So the next one he talks about is this Kobe Bryant Topps Chrome and Topps. You can see here the Topps Chrome has gone up by 40%, Topps Base has gone up by 85%. So again, going over to the awesome GemRate data, you can see here, the green line here is the number of gems, PSA 10s, right? 830 to 833, basically unchanged. And so it makes sense that net, the cards have gone up, 40%. One thing I will say is that Kobe's cards were already increasing because the pandemic was March 2020. He passed away in late January 2020. So as a result, they had already started ramping up. That's another variant to throw into Kobe cards. That's that makes this a little bit harder to analyze. Okay, going back to this. So the Topps Chrome PSA 10s pop counts have basically not changed in the last 2 years. So I'd be fairly confident to say that, yeah, what Jeff's saying about the Topps Chrome, probably correct. Keeping in mind that March 2020 might not be a good anchor point or point as a way to calculate the difference because of Kobe passing away in January 2020, right? So that throws things askew. And so you're saying, well, if this is 40%, like what is the growth, 40% for growth for the Topps Chrome? What about Topps? What's the growth there? Like this, basically the pop count didn't change for Topps Chrome PSA 10. And you would think that with it going even higher for Topps Base, 80%, that'd be the same. It's not. It's the Topps Base PSA 10 pop count has gone up by 50% since 2021. 2,800 here, 4,100 here, that's roughly 50%. Plus there's all the growth from March 2020 to, February 2021, right? So I would say that this gives me pause on buying anything Topps Base for the PSA, for a Kobe Bryant PSA 10. And this is when you need to do the research, you need to do the homework, and it's stuff like GemRate, where you can get this data to deep dive and make sure that the numbers are aligned with what you're thinking, and that there's not something like this that makes what Jeff's saying not true, basically, or not true. It's going to be a lot harder for it to be the bottom now, based off of this increase. And so that's, I'd say right now, if you were to buy between the Topps Chrome and the Topps Base, you have to go with the Chrome because the pop counts are just vastly different in terms of the change. All right, next card he talks about is the Ken Griffey Jr. PSA 10, PSA 9, another iconic card. Let's go to that. So we'll go back to the spreadsheet here. And so you can see here the 10 has only gone up by 5%, and whereas the 9 has gone up by 15%. So what does that look like here? You can see that the 10 has gone up by a little 148%. The 9 has gone up by 111%. I guess that kind of tracks with what the data is showing. And so again, if I had to choose one based off of this, I'd choose the 10. Honestly, the pop count of 4K makes me kind of squeamish. And so as a result, I don't know if I'd buy either of these, but if you had to choose one over the other, choose the 10 over the 9 if you have the money to do it, obviously. And again, it's like the GemRate data on this is just spectacular and very helpful in making sure you make good choices in terms of what cards you buy, if you're looking to invest or at least hold cards you like and also watching them possibly appreciate in value. The next one, the Jeter. Yeah, Jeets. If you don't get that reference, shout out to you. If you don't, Google it. You can see here, the foil PSA 8 has gone down 25%. The Topps Base PSA 10 has gone up 60%. So that's a wide difference. What does the data say? Well, the data for the Jeter, the Topps has actually gone up quite a bit. It's 18%, so let's call it like well over 20% if you include the missing data from 2020, whereas the foil PSA 8 is only gone up by 5% in terms of pop count. The thing I'd say for this one though is the pop counts being in the 9,000s for an 8, knowing that there's two different grades that are higher. I know the 10 is like, pop count's like tiny. I don't know that either of these are buys at this point. Like you could definitely see a case where there's more to fall in at least the base if you're using the 2020 reference point, given that the pop count is also increased by this much. Maybe Jeff's right, maybe this is the bottom, but I'd be less certain about it having seen this number, right? And this is how you can, again, use the GemRate data to dig into it, to find these type of insights, to make sure that you're making good choices with what you buy. All right, next one is the Mantle. 228% for a PSA 1. You know what they say, vintage is safe, vintage is, there's less risk to it. Some people have debunked that a little bit. Some people don't agree. Let's take a look at the data. So again, this is just a PSA 1, 220% increase. Look at the Mantle numbers. Look at the lack of change in these numbers compared to what we've seen before, right? Here's the Jeter, here's the Griffey, here's the Jordan, the Mantle. Look at it. There's nothing, no changes in the 9 or 8, 3 more in a 7, basically nothing in a, like at most 10, 12, 13, 14% for a 1 or a 2, but anything after that, the pop counts aren't moving at all. And so this tells me, if I had to be like Jeff, you're on point for at least one of these cards, it's got to be this Mantle. And you can see from the trend here, it's going straight line up, right? There's less of a rebound, but like the general trend is slowly upwards. So I'd say Jeff's on the mark for this one. But I found this one really, really interesting when I did the research. The next one here is a bunch, or 2 of the 84 quarterbacks, Elway and Marino. You can see here the PSA 10s for both the Elway and the Marino are in the 200, 300%, where the 9s are a little bit less than that, 90 and 180%, right? And so the 10s are outperforming the 9s. What does the data say? You got it. The 10s are only going up by 3%, 6%, very, very little, whereas the 9s are doubling that at the very least for the Marino, and like tripling that, quadrupling that for the 9 to the 10, right? So to me, this makes sense why this is happening, but I wouldn't lump in the 9 with the 10s, because also the pop counts, forget the change, just the total amount of pop counts, these, when you get to like the 4,000 range, 3,000 range, I get a little bit uncomfortable because, as mentioned in one of my previous videos, I tend to view cards kind of like real estate, and so you really don't have much selling power when there's so many other copies that are the same as you. And so for this one, if I had to say, Jeff, you're on point, I'd say the 10 more than the 9. The 9, I'm like, I'm not sure, maybe not, but you know, like I take this with a grain of salt. So that's the Marino and Elway. Next up is the Gretzky, and he's looking at it from a PSA 10. If you look at the trend, it's a little spike upwards, and then now it's kind of like cooled back down. But now let's look at the pop counts and whether or not, oh yeah, I forgot to look, what's the percentage change here? 118%. So if I look at the Gretzky and I look at all the grades, I think 8 is a safe choice, 9 is a safe choice, 7 is a safe choice. If again, you're looking just at the rough graphs for comparing 2020 to now, I don't think I'd be as certain about anything from grade 6, from 1 to 6 basically. Look at the amount that these have jumped. Like the 2 is tripled or doubled, literally doubled, 294 to 586. Same with the 3 almost, like 4. Like these are huge numbers. And again, keep in mind, we don't have all the data from the growth in pop counts from 2020, right? It's just starting in February 2021. So that probably means all of these are probably doubled at the very least, right? So I'd say for this one, the 8, I agree, Jeff, but again, it's kind of implied that 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s, that might be the case. Maybe the 7, but anything below that, I'm not sure. And so make sure that you take a look at these type of numbers when you watch Jeff's videos. And again, even though it's kind of implied, like the Gretzky is an iconic card, that doesn't mean the insights or the conclusions he's drawing applies to all the different grades. The next one is the LeBron. So LeBron is a funny case because his cards were already going up because he was on his way to winning his first championship as a Laker, and obviously a big contingent of Laker fans out there. So that was already driving his prices to go up. Plus, let's be honest, the Lakers suck right now, and he's getting a little bit older. So this one is already down 12% from its 2020 levels. Let's keep that in mind. Next one, Curry, up just huge amounts for his Topps base PSA 10 and PSA 9. And then the last one here is a Luka, down 36%, but it's the Luka base with like 19,000 pop count. What does the data say? Here we go. Topps Chrome LeBron hasn't really changed much in terms of the pop count. So I wouldn't buy LeBron just because he's still an active player, and I don't think the Lakers are going to be good anytime soon. So there are other reasons why I wouldn't buy LeBron, but I think it's okay to say that in terms of comparing 2020, 2022, or 2023 now, sorry, it's a relatively decent comparison. I just don't know with his team and how much that team is not going to be very good that I'd do it. Looking at the Currys, they are both up ginormous percentages, right? 300% for the 9, 460% for the 10s. But if you look at the data, huge difference in the pop count growth of the 9 versus the 10. 9 grew up, like literally grew 18 cards, 5%, 50% increase for the PSA 9. So I'd say for this one, Jeff, probably on point for the 10. Sorry, the 10 here. Pop counts are something you haven't thought about, or pop count growth is something you haven't thought about for the 9, and that's really something that needs to be considered. And then lastly, I find this funny because even though the growth is quote unquote only 16%, it's basically been almost 3,000 cards added to the Luka base. And so again, that doesn't include the amounts from, or the cards being graded in the rest of 2020 from March 2020 to January 2021. So with this, like this is a stay away just because of the pop count. Okay, we're almost done here, folks, but I think you got the gist. Here is the Mike Trout. Again, it's up only 4%. If you look at the growth in the pop counts since 2021, 12% increase. So, but again, the number is so high, 6,000, that I'm not sure that I'd be wanting to buy something in that range. It's too much of a commodity, right? What's the difference between one PSA 10 versus another? None. So I don't know that I'd be looking to buy that. It will require a big change to bump that price up given the pop count. And then the last one here is the Brady Bowman Chrome base PSA 9 and 10. And you can see they've both gone up. The 9 has gone up 275%. The 10 has gone up 167 since March 2020. The pop counts, the 10 has gone up 7%. The 9 has gone up 45%. So I think Jeff's analysis is correct, or his insights, I can't say they were correct, right? Because who knows what's going to happen in the future. But like, you can see that like what he's saying for the 10 makes sense because the pop counts haven't grown that much. But the 9, I don't know that just saying, oh yeah, since 2020 to 2023, we're up by X number percent, and you know, as long as it's within that 40 to 100% range, we're good. I'd say no, because the pop count is it's added almost 50%. Go to 1500 to 2100 plus, right? So that's the video. The takeaway here is do your research. I don't blame Jeff for overlooking the supply side of this, but it's something that is very important. It is literally half of economics, supply and demand. He's only looking at demand, which is fair, but it's important to think about the change in supply as well. So that's the video for today. Would love to hear your comments. What do you think? Am I right? Is the supply side a big factor? Is there another factor I'm missing and that Jeff missed as well? Again, this is not a Jeff Slam video. It's just, I think for this video, he missed the mark by not thinking about supply. So that's the video. One last thing that I normally do on the YouTube channel here is we do a preview of next week's video. And so the next week's video is, let's talk about card shops. Are they really that important to the hobby? I have some thoughts, and they might not be commonplace, or they might not be shared by others, but that's what the next video is about. That's the video for this week. Thank you for watching and listening. If you liked what you watched and heard, feel free to subscribe. Please like the video. Please let me know your comments below, and I will see you next week. Cheers.